So in this video, we're going to take our first steps to actually setting up the battle system. If we go back to like our original goal, if you remember that this is our reference image that was provided, and basically what we want to do is we want to set up a battle where we have an enemy in front of us and we have this this menu selection with character stats to go through. Similar to the, I think this comes from maybe Dragon Quest, the Dragon Quest battle system. So I'm going to show you like a pretty good way to set this up, which doesn't require much coding or anything. It's a good trick to know. And okay, so what I'm going to start with is for this battle system, I've taken that image and I've kind of cut the character out of it and this all the menu stuff, and I've got this background image that we're going to use, and that's set to 640 by 560 pixels in width and height. And that's important because we're actually going to place this on a board, so we need to ensure that our game's screen size is the same size as this image so it can be seen. So if you go to the scripting tutorial project, the project that you've created, and set your graphics settings. So what you want to do here is you want to set it to custom, and inside of custom you want to put in those dimensions: 640 pixels wide, so 640x, and 640y. So, and that will ensure that the screen is the correct size for this battle system to be shown correctly. So once you've done that, next we need to create a board. So we're going to create our board, and what this board is going to be is this board is going to be every time we have a battle with an enemy, we're gonna send our player to this board, and this is going to be our battle system board. So I already know what these dimensions need to be, so you just need to follow this. Alternatively, I'll be linking all these files in the description, so you'll be able to also download them. So you need 20 20 wide and 17 high, and you can just leave the default tile width and height to 32. And what that's going to give us is that's going to give us a dimensions of 640 by 544 pixels, which is going to be close enough to hold this this battle system image. So I'm just going to go OK, and now I've got this blank board. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create two layers here. I'm going to create I'm going to call one player, which is going to be the bottom layer, and then I'm going to create one above that. So I'm just going to shift player down, and then I'm going to create one which is the actual battle layer. So two layers. Okay, this is going to be important. First, I'm going to set a board image. So I'm going to go up. Sorry, I'm going to go up here and set my board image, and I'm going to set that to our battle background. Now this image is slightly bigger than this board size, but it's kind of the closest in terms of centering it. I think it's slightly narrower, or it's not quite as high as the image, so you just need to kind of move it around and get something that looks good. So I'm just going to leave it like that. That looks fine to me. And I'm just going to remember to save this, and I'm going to just call this battle_system. And now this is important. So I think I've put this image on the wrong layer, so I've made a mistake, but that's pretty simple to fix. All I need to do is, with the image selected, I just need to go to the layer option and just flick that up to layer 1, and then click save again. So the important thing here is, why do we need two layers? Basically, we're going to have the player on the player layer. I've just shifted the starting point of the player down here so it doesn't interfere so much with the image. But basically what this allows us to do is, this means when we have a battle we can send the player to this board, and we send the player to the player layer. And now the player layer is behind the battle layer, so you won't actually be able to see the player during the battle. But this means that we can still use all the features of boards, such as placing enemies and NPCs and things like that. We don't have to write a load of code to achieve the same thing. So this is a cool trick. And if you're familiar with other game engines such as Unity, or I'm trying to think of other examples, but Unity is definitely one. Actually Godot maybe. You might be familiar with the concept of scenes. And typically what you do is, if you're creating something like this in Godot, is use a similar technique to this, in the sense that you create a scene where the battle takes place, and that is separate from your main game. So that's what we're doing here with RPG Wizard. We're creating a board which is separate from the actual game world. So the player might be walking around in a house or in a dungeon, and then they'll trigger a battle, and what we'll do is we'll send the player to this board, and the battle will take place on this board. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just show you we're going to create a really simple program. So I just need you to go to File, New Program. And what we're going to type into this this code is we're just going to type RPG code dot send to board and what we're going to do is we're going to put in the board name in the first parameter. So this command is a generic command for sending the player to a board from a program. So you just need to put in battle system board. So, and then I need to know the tile X that I want to send the player to. So I'm just going to turn on the grid show coordinates. So I'm going to kind of send the player to 3:15. This isn't really going to matter because I'm not actually going to see the player. So I just want to send it to 3 and 15. And then the layer is 0. So in terms of the layer numbering, the bottommost layer, so it's the bottommost layer starts at 0. And then it works its way up. So player layer is 0, battle layer is 1. So I just want to send that to 0. And then we're just going to call, okay, so a couple of things. First, RPG code send board. If you've never seen this before, this sends the character to a board and places them at a certain position. That's the purpose of it. And that's really all this function does. It immediately sends the player to a new board. So you can trigger this at any time in a program, and the player will be sent to a board. And now there's one other thing. You don't need to fully understand this yet. I'm gonna go into this in a bit more detail soon, but you just need to type in rpgcode.end program. Okay. So rpg.code.end program is basically gonna say that once the player has been sent to this board, this program is finished. And that will allow the game engine to just continue doing whatever it was, which is probably just letting the player move around the board, in our case. So I'm going to save this program. So I'm going to call this program battle_system. So pretty much the same as the board name. And then I'm just going to save that. Okay, so we're gonna try this out. Hopefully it's going to work. For this to work, you need to have a character created. So, you know, if you followed the previous tutorial on this, it's pretty straightforward. I've just copied the character from the Wizard's Tower game. So that's the character that I'm using. And I'm just going to double check that I have that character set. So I have that character set as my initial character. So that's just something you'll need to have set up for this. So for your game, you might have a totally different character. But if you follow the other tutorial series, you'll learn how to set up a character. Okay, so I'm going to run this program. Okay, so I closed it, so I just need to open it again. Okay, so I want to run this program. What this program hopefully is going to do is it's going to send the player to that board. I'm going to see the board appear, but I'm not actually going to see the player anywhere. Okay, so to run this program, just this program, you need to go up to here and you need to click on debug program up here on it's like the little bug next to the play icon. So I'm going to hit that. And I'm sent to the board. Okay, so you can't see the player, but the player is actually underneath here. He's moving around. So how can I show you that to you? What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this. I'm going to go back to the board. I'm going to select the battle layer. I'm going to select the board image tool, and then I'm going to select the image. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift this image around somewhere. So I'm going to like shift it up. Sorry, it kind of snaps to the corner, so it's a little bit difficult to do. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm just going to kind of put it there. So we'll actually be able to see the player and the image. So I'm going to click save. This is just to show you this. And then I'm going to click, I'm going to run debug the program again. And now I can see the player. So the player is actually hidden underneath here. So obviously we won't want the character to be moving around when there's a battle going on in the background. So in the next tutorial we're going to look at how we can prevent the player from being able to move underneath the board while there's a battle going on. We're also going to look at placing an enemy on the actual board, so we have something to visually look at in terms of the battle. And then progressively over the next couple of tutorials we're going to take a look at processing player input, so when they want to do an attack, and animating the enemy when it gets attacked, and also, you know, the enemy taking its attack turn. So we're gonna start covering all those topics, and hopefully over the next couple of videos we're gonna start to create a more kind of complete battle system. This is just the very beginning of it, but by the end of it we're gonna have something pretty cool.